Faith Secured, our House of Worship Safety Forum. We look forward to getting some wonderful information from Sister Mariah. Brother Travis will say more about her. But at this time, I want to invite you to bow your heads with me for a word of prayer. But before I even say that, I just would like to welcome you to our church. Make yourself at home. If there's anything that you need, please don't hesitate to let us know. Also downstairs, and Travis will say more about that as well, there's some screenings, there's some screeners downstairs as well, some health screeners. Travis will speak more about that. So thank you so much for being here this evening, and we'll pray. Without further ado, we'll pray and go straight in. Bow your heads with me. Father, in heaven, we thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to learn how to be safe even while we worship. And so we pray that the information that we will receive, that it will go to good use. Bless this evening's proceedings, I pray, and for those who are still on their way, I pray that you'll give them safe traveling mercies. Thank you so much for hearing and answering this prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to Faith Secured, our House of Worship Safety Forum. Basically, we wanted to have this event to, highlight, the importance of security within a church setting, not just a church, but any house of worship that you could think of. And because, we're all a community, and so our community needs to be protected. So part of that protection is Mariah from the Office of Emergency Management going to be giving you more of an in-depth understanding of, ways to be more protected, tips to, and other resources that could help with their security. Before we start, I just want to highlight that downstairs we do have screenings. VIM is a medical company. They are doing COVID tests, flu shots, and just other medical screenings. And then we have Mount Sinai, who's doing blood pressure. So if you feel you need anything, just go downstairs, and they'll be readily available for you. Without further ado, I present Mariah.
Thank you so much. So my name is Mariah Washington. I get to serve as Director of Community Engagement at New York City Emergency Management. We are a city agency. We serve all the 5 boroughs. Will the PowerPoint be able to be pulled up? I can do without it, though. It's okay. Okay, thank you so much. We are a small and mighty team, I like to say. I had Mr. Ed, one of our staff members. He came in to make a connection with the pastor quickly, and then he's running to another meeting. We have like barely 12 full-time staff members in our agency alone that's dedicated to community engagement. And we have 8 point plus millions of New Yorkers and who live in the city. On commute days, that number jumps up to about 12 million folks who are within our cities. Our agency is here to help New Yorkers before, during, and after emergencies. So I used to say, we're like a New York version of FEMA, and then after 6 months, I was like, I'm not saying that anymore, because what we offer you are resources for you to be equipped in your household, for you to be equipped as a house of worship, as an organization, if you have a private business, as a private business. When it comes to the preparedness, it's about creating the plan. Sometimes the plans go out the window, but when you have a plan, you're a little bit more calmer than if you didn't have a plan, right? After emergencies, that recovery piece, we often say recovery is when you go back to the norm. We know that the norm is not the norm. So even with COVID, we never went back to our 2019 lifestyles, right? We've adjusted and adapted to a new norm. So part of my coming out here is really to equip you with some knowledge on how you can prepare you and your household for emergencies. So when I say the word emergency, what comes to mind? Fire, earthquake, flood. It's also infrastructural, so main water breaks. You saw in the Bronx, we had a partial building collapse. It could also be man-made. There's some not so good people out there that do different explosive devices. So when we say all these things, it's to prepare you. It's not to scare you. And I often in this presentation, I won't say if, but when the next emergency happens, because it's when the next emergency happens. We've been getting slammed with flooding in the past 2 years in ways that the city has never seen before. And so we are trying to gear you all up to be able to bounce back. So if we had a blow up doll, that, those little inflatables, and if you punch it, it bounces back and you punch it again. We don't want to punch you, but emergencies knock us off our feet. And we want you as a community, as a household, to be able to bounce back and get back into your routine to keep living life and not just taking it. So, okay. So there we are. We are here for New Yorkers before, during, and after emergencies. We are made up of about 200 folks. Maybe 50 other people are deployed from the fire department and the police department. Part of their deployment is when the building collapses or if there's major flooding, we send one staff member out, and those are our citywide interagency coordinators, and they're going and they're the eyes and ears for the agency. So then they'll feed back the information to our agency and say, hey, yep, we need DP on the ground, we need buildings on the ground, and also we need Red Cross on the ground. We have households impacted. So they coordinate on the ground. They make sure that people are stepping in and stepping up. We are the liaison coordinating agency. We're making sure the adults are playing nice in the sandbox when emergencies happen. We're the ones that are tapping folks on the shoulder and saying like, hey, this is fire related, step in and step up. Hey, you step back. It's fire departments, their lead. So that's what we do. There are people who make anything you could think of as an emergency, there literally is a plan for. Before COVID happened, we literally had a pandemic exercise where what happens if you have a pandemic? What are the actions you take? I know it didn't feel like the city had a plan, but there was a plan. So there is a plan for everything, and we know that there are politics and happenings that will occur that will knock you off your radar. This image that you see right here on the screen is our Emergency Operations Center. So if you're ever in Brooklyn and you want to come as a group, I would love to give you a tour. It's a magical place. If you watch different TV shows, you'll see this type of background of like all these people in the background with computers, but this is the physical space where we coordinate. So when there was that Manhattan West Side blackout in July of 2019, we all rushed to the EOC, and that's where I'm able to coordinate with Con Edison. People are from the state is there, people from the federal level are there as well. The image you see right here is also our watch command. So we have people in our building 24/7 who are monitoring the radios for police, for the emergency medical services, for fire. They're the ones that are sending out messaging. If you have Notify NYC, they're the ones that saying this bridge is closed right now due to storms. They're the ones that send out messaging to say like the following trains are not running right now. They will also send out messaging to say we are evacuating Hurricane Zone 1. Like, what does that even mean? So Watch Command are the eyes and ears. It's not eagle eye like those Denzel Washington movies. We're not watching New Yorkers in that way. We don't have the resources or capacity. It's more of when the emergency happens, they're able to either pull up some footage or hear it on the radio to assess who else needs to be there to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So within the community engagement team, we have 3 teams. We have our CERT team, that's Community Emergency Response Team. That is for 8 people 18 years or older. In the back of your packet, there's a small little palm card, and it has information on CERT. So if you're someone who likes to be a resource and you have some time, I would encourage you to sign up for CERT. This is a way for you to be the resource when emergencies happen, where there might be a blackout here and they need extra human arrows. You work together with your district of other CERT volunteers, and you make it happen. You go through a rigorous training that involves a fire department, police department, and you learn the different safety components. You'll learn about stop the bleed. You'll learn about how to use a fire extinguisher. The reality is we use CERT to help us with canvassing. We use CERT for big events, so like the Thanksgiving Day parade, inflatable balloons the day before. We'll use them as like human arrows and also as kind of like deterring people. They also are at the hot dog eating contest. But on the opposite end, when we have those major fires, if we think about the fire of January 2021 in the Bronx, where we lost too many lives, they were at the service center. So what would it look and feel like if there was an emergency in your community for someone to see your face, a familiar face, as a volunteer, greeting them? And so that is my plug for CERT. Look it up. If you got time, sign up. If you don't have time, but you know someone that does have time, encourage them to sign up. Is this being recorded? Okay, because representation matters, and so please sign up. The Ready New York team, they do this presentation I'm doing with you right now. It's all about individual preparedness. The community preparedness team, that's the team I get to lead with 3 other awesome people. We work with houses of worship, coalitions, networks, small organizations. How are you preparing for emergencies? How do you continue your operations after the emergency? Have you ever had a fire drill in this church? Okay, I got a yes and I got a no. I grew up in lots of churches throughout the nation as an Army brat. Never did a fire drill. But all these things are to equip you of when you need to do it, do you know how to do it? So we do have some trainings and offerings for that. I've been working very well with Travis as well to try to connect and get him connected to some of the federal resources and funding that's available for houses of worship as well. So now we'll jump into the main event, which is the Ready New York, how to prepare your household. So each of you should have this plan in your presence, and you can follow along if you want, or you can listen to my voice. Some people fall asleep when I talk, and other people are very engaged. So I'm like, at least I see 3 people engaged, and it's success for me. So everything we talk about today is going to feel a little familiar to you. The goal of everything I present today is really to take everything that's in your mind and put it on paper. My grandma is 87 years old. She lives in South Carolina. I've known her phone number since beyond 1996. It's been the same exact phone number. I am confident that when the emergency happens, that I will only remember the first 3 digits of her phone number. And that is because when the emergencies happen, our brain, we're in fight or flight mode. We also are in shock. We also are just kind of like, what do I do next? And so to relieve your brain of memorizing everything, we want you to establish and make a plan. We'll talk about gathering supplies, and we'll talk about the importance of getting informed. So if you turn to page 4, it's the purple portion of the plan. Developing a plan. Now, you can have this be your plan, or you might be someone into technology. You might do it in a Word document and save it into your Google Cloud. You might have a composition notebook at home, and you might handwrite it in there. However you choose to document it, it's success as long as you choose to document it and share it with the people you live with. So you want to identify who is in your personal network. You want to identify 2 people that are in the area and at least 1 person that's not in the area. Why do you think it's important to have at least 1 person outside of where you live, like beyond your community? Thank you. In case the people that are in your community and in your network are also impacted by that emergency. So for me, I'm all the way up in the Bronx, almost by Pelham Bay. So I got people in East Harlem. I have people in New Jersey. I have cousins in Left Rack City and Queens. And if all else, I could go down south, but we know that would be quite a trek to do that, right? So I'll talk to my people in East Harlem. Hey, can I come over? If something happens, is it okay if I could come over? I have to have a conversation with them. I can't just say, emergency happens, hey, y'all, I'm coming over. Because they might say, wait a minute, we never talked about this. So you want to think about that. But I'm going to think about Auntie JoJo in D.C. If there's 3 of us in my household, we can't get into contact with each other within the 5 boroughs. We all know to touch in with Auntie JoJo. Auntie JoJo will be the person to tell the next one, yep, I heard from Mariah. Yep, I heard from Jesse. Yep, I heard from Ryan. Nope, I didn't hear from Deborah. Okay, I'm going to call back in an hour to see if you heard from Deborah, but if you hear from her before then, let me know. So the people in this networks, they have a role. They're the touch-in point in case you're not able to get in touch with everybody else within your core family. When you establish that, you also want to think about your medical piece, your health piece. Some of us have prescriptions. Some of us have a cooler worth of prescriptions. Whatever it is, we want you to document it. And what that can look and feel like is taking the sticky off your bottle and put it into the composition notebook. Boom. Now you have a record of that prescription. It might be that you take a picture of it and upload it to the magical cloud. But just think about if we don't have power, right? So think about a hard plan, physical, but if you want to do cloud, that's okay as well. You want to get that documented. You want to list out allergies for everybody in your household as well. Sometimes people we live with don't know they're allergic to things because we do such a great job of taking care of them and making sure they avoid it. So document it. Document the medications. Document the health insurance. Document the very details that only you can answer. We got to release that so that anybody in the household can answer it. They can pick up the plan and they can answer it. This information is really important because when emergencies happen, we all are going to naturally want to run to the pharmacy to get our prescription. Our prescriptions come in like maybe a month or 3-month packets. When the emergency happens, they're not going to be permitted to give us a month or even 3 months worth of that medicine because there's thousands of others who also need their medicine in order to live and survive. And so it's hard to prove. The databases go down and you have that sticky in your composition notebook and it says that there's 44 refills and it says the date. Even if the date's within that 12 months, it's cool because they can do the math and see, okay, yep, this is your prescription. We can only give you weeks at a time. Department of Health is not allowing us to give more than that at a time. So you want to try to think in the mind frame of if you are the lead of your household when it comes to these things, can someone else share the information? Document it down. Document the doctor information as well if that's important. If it's kind of like we can go to any doctor, that's fine as well. Make a photocopy of this information as well as the contact information as well. Something you want to also think about are the people in your household. Does everyone speak English? Does everybody know how to speak? So you might have a loved one who's nonverbal or who's unable to really make one clear statement. Get a note card. Write a basic phrase on that note card. Put one on the refrigerator, put the other one in the plan, and that plan could go in the go bag. So they know when you see someone with this NYC, they're official. I know there's bad people out there, but you want to gear them up to like, when help comes, hand them this card. Practice that with them as well. It might be someone who might be low vision. I had an auntie from the Virgin Islands who stayed with my mom in North Carolina for 2 months. My mom was happy that she went on back home. But my auntie's vision was one time it felt like a miracle. The next day she was kind of like, she just couldn't see. So think about the people that you love on and someone else might not be able to understand or tolerate. Document it in a way for when they go to that service center, someone knows immediately how to better serve them. Like, oh, this is an autistic individual. Great, I have the contact information of their mother. Let me call them right now and let them know that they're with me and where they're located. So really think ahead. Also, if you have someone who has any type of disability, you want to kind of get a head start as well. You want to make sure that if you're in a building that requires an elevator, do you have the contact of the building owners as well? You want them to be registered. You want to be registered with Con Edison as well. And here's why. And I'm specifically speaking of people who might be on life-sustaining equipment, which means you have to be plugged in order to live with any type of machinery. When we have the blackouts, the first question that is asked is how many people are on LSEs? How many people are on life-sustaining equipment? So in July of 2019, how many people do you think were on life-sustaining equipment in Manhattan, the west side? 25,000. You said 20? It was registered as 0. And we know that wasn't accurate, but it's because we don't know what we don't know. So if you know someone who has a loved one, it could be your frenemy, it could be your neighbor, who's on life-sustaining equipment, have them call Con Edison and get them registered properly, because our first priorities are to preserve as many lives as possible and get people safe. So really think of those people, those loved ones that might have people with special disabilities as well. Likewise, I want to put my plug in for 311. With 311, if we say we're evacuating areas that are flooding in Zone 1 in Staten Island, and you have someone who's unable to transport themselves or even get out the house on their own, they can call 311 and coordinate transportation to a destination, right? It's something that we don't advertise as a city. There's technicalities around it. We advertise certain benefits, then everybody's gonna all of a sudden want that benefit, is the fear. But the truth is, we give every update to 311 when emergencies happen so that you can call them and ask for the update. You can call and say, like, hey, what's this storm they keep talking about on TV? What's going on? And they'll give you whatever Notify NYC it says, whatever the mayor said recently, whatever our agency, emergency management, has said, they'll say what's going on. But likewise, if you say, hey, I live on the coast, I'm in this neighborhood, this storm is coming, there's already flooding that I'm seeing, I need to evacuate, I have an auntie and a daughter who are wheelchair bound, and I don't know what to do, can you help? You say the right words that force them to attract to provide that help, that transportation, to then get them to safety. And so keep that in mind. Think of the people who you love on, the people that you see, and document that accordingly. Within your plan, we're on page 8 at this point, you also want to think of meeting places. So at work, we have meeting places when there's a fire. We know we have to go to a certain point. At school, there's a meetup place when there's a fire. At church, there should be a meeting place when there's a fire. Is there a meeting place? Not yet. Okay, not yet. Not yet. Okay. So soon, there will be a meeting place when there is a fire or emergency. At home, where's your meetup place? Find a location that's 2 blocks away, and then find a location that maybe you have to take a bus, or maybe whether it's raining, snowing, or just hot as I don't know what outside, you can get there within 20 minutes. And so if the 3 people that live with you are in 3 different places but still in the community, they know where to go if phones die and we're not able to talk and communicate on our technology. So think of those meeting places, document it, and share it with the people in your household. Do not create this plan and keep it to yourself. I say, don't be cute and mute. Like, this is something to actually, like, hey, y'all, we gotta sit down. We're gonna have a family meeting. We just had one 3 months sit down. We gotta talk about this because we see the storms that are happening. This morning, the storm was bad in some of the neighborhoods, right? Parts of Queens got slammed pretty bad as well. So there's some things that are just not as predictable as we would want. So we want you to have those meetup places. We want you to coordinate where you can stay. So I told you I probably could stay with the people in East Harlem, but I have no business telling myself I could stay there without talking to them, right? So having that conversation, hey, there's 3 of us, can we fit if something happens? Because if I'm in the Bronx and you're in East Harlem, more than likely we're not both gonna be experiencing the same impact unless it's a blackout, right? And so have that conversation and identify 2 different locations. Think about a place outside of your core community, because more than likely, if it happened to you, it's gonna impact the others. So if we think about the building collapse, the partial building collapse in the Bronx last week, your backup, if they were in the same building as you, that's not a really great plan, right? And so you think about someone that might be a couple of blocks away, and also someone that might be in the next borough away. I'll be honest, I don't know much about Staten Island, so I wouldn't know what recommendations to tell you, but I know that you gotta think about, where do you live, where do you work, and where do you play/socialize a lot? And knowing where can you get to the fastest of all those 3 places? Where can the people you live with get to the fastest as well? Now we're shifting a little bit, and we're talking now about evacuations, knowing how to evacuate. So in the back of your books, there is a map, and it's kind of folded up, so it doesn't look like what I have right now. It's folded up in like 18 different ways. And the map is a bit small, but it's called Know Your Zone. And this is New York City's, thank you so much. This is New York City's official evacuation map. This map is not a flood map. This map is not a federal map. This map is not to claim a certain type of insurance for your household. This map is only used for New York City for any mayor that's in office to declare an evacuation based on your location. So I was talking to Travis to really figure out where we sit, like where are we right now? And we're in a unique space where we're kind of within 5 blocks, we touch 4 different evacuation zones. This map is hard for me to see, and so I know it may be hard for you to see as well. You are able to go online and you can Google know your zone, and a digitalized map will come up, and you can put in your address of where you live. All of the coastal areas in Staten Island, Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, all of them are zone 1. Dangerous, not good. Zone 2, again, we're still in coastal areas or marshlands of some sort. When evacuations happen, we do it based off of this. One of our biggest questions and frustrations that we get in the community, tell me how I'm going to evacuate. And I can't tell you how we're going to evacuate because there's dozens of bridges in New York City, because there's cars going every which way. So when there is a declaration of evacuation, the city has a strategy to coordinate which ways vehicles will go and what the recommendations may be. They may have recommendations to leave your car behind, and you might not want to comply. You might say, no, I'm taking my car. Whatever the directions are, I strongly encourage you to listen and use your own wisdom. We do evacuations based off of zones. We have not done evacuations in a long time, but also some of our high targeted areas that we've been really nervous about flooding, they kind of sync up with this map in so many ways. So we were really scared about different parts of Queens and how this rainfall that we had on Sunday and Monday came in. And it really, if we put this map on top of the other one where we try to target lots of information, you'll see the danger zones. If we evacuate you out of zone 1 and 2, that's the red and orange area, would we also put a service center there for you? Nope, you don't think so. We won't. That's another frustration that people have. We're not going to put you in harm's way. So we'll put you in an area that has a gridded white area where it's elevated, which means it's going to be further out, which means that they probably will run some type of bus shuttles or whatever it may be to get people to that location. For the building collapse, they opened up a service center at the local school that was just a couple of blocks away. A service center is like a help desk, a real life help desk to say hey, I live in this building, what do I do? They're gonna say, well, how many people live with you? Okay, are they all here with you right now? Do you have anywhere else to go? I have 4 people that live with me. They're all with me right now. We don't have anywhere else to go. They will coordinate and say, all right, go to this desk over here with Red Cross. They're gonna coordinate your housing for the next 2 nights, and they'll also provide you with a food voucher to make sure that you can cover the meals for the 4 people in your house. So the service center is a real life help desk with people from different agencies and organizations to give you the right information. The service centers can be very frustrating because we have limited information and resources right after the emergency has happened. And so when you go to the service center, be kind, be patient, but also know that the people there are trying to do their best to serve you as well. So service centers happen after major floodings, after major fires, after building collapse, after a main water break. There was a main water break in Queens, November 2019, that had some people homeless for about 1.5 years. So, the city worked out some things to try to help provide for them. But when I say emergencies, there literally could be something beyond our control that can impact where we live or where our loved one lives. So knowing that, it's important to know which buses, which trains can you take, what taxi service do you prefer. You might say, I Uber everywhere. Some people might not have Uber money. So think wisely about how can you get to point A to point B and what approach you will take. Now you have your plan. Your plan is the guide or the composition notebook. Now you're going to take your plan, you're going to put it in a Ziploc bag. And then you're going to pack a go bag. Now, what comes to mind when I say a go bag? A knapsack, all essential items, I think of Denzel Washington in a movie, an action movie, where it's like, oh, let me grab this bag and go. In that, I'm sure he has all his essential items. He might have a weapon. We don't need to carry weapons in our go bag, not in New York City. So be mindful in your go bag. Don't put any knives in there and no other trick type of things that might hurt someone. But you do want to put your toiletries in there. You do want to put the copy of your plan in there. You do want to put anything in proof that I am who I say I am. It's hard to prove we are who we say we are. It's hard to prove I own what I say I own. It's hard to prove I live where I say I live. So you make copies of the mortgage. You make copies of your deed. Make copies of your lease. Make copies of all those different documentations that you're like, oh, no, but it's mine. Because when emergencies happen, there are people who are not operating integrity that will kind of take away from people. So make copies, put the copies in a Ziploc, put the Ziploc in your go bag. You want some cash. Why is it important to have cash? Electricity may be out. Who knows what the government might say too, right? What if they say you only could take $20 out per person, right? We'll say that's bananas. But put cash aside however you can. Some, you might be able to say, oh, I could put a couple of $100 aside right now. Others, maybe it's $5 a month. And just keep letting it accumulate until when you need it, it's like, oh, wow, there's $300 in here. I forgot about it. When you put the money in the go bag, leave it there. Leave it there, because when the emergency happens, you won't remember it's there, but then when you see it, you'll kind of be like, oh, thank goodness. And you'll be able to use it to buy anything else that you might have forgot. Baby items are something that often are forgotten to put in the go bags because we don't have abundance of it. Feminine products as well. Those are two different categories that are also hard items for people to donate. So think about that. Think about the babies, the children. Think about PPE. We still have so many different viruses going around. So incorporate that within your go bag. Put a small bottle of water, something you can snack on, and a whistle. Why a whistle? To alert others. To alert others where you are and something happened. I told you I have an 87-year-old grandma. I've known her number since beyond 1996. What if I lose my voice when the emergency happens all of a sudden? You'll have enough wind to just blow into the whistle. And people won't be like, oh, it's Carnival. No, it's an emergency. Like, I keep hearing this whistle sign, let's find this person. So that's something that first responders, if they're hearing a whistle, they're trained to go towards that whistle sound and figure out what's going on. So you want to make sure you have a whistle. How many of you have a radio, AM, FM radio? Okay, so 2. So that's something that, we've kind of, most of us put aside. I would encourage you to try to buy one. This is one of the few things I'll say to buy. Buy one because AM, FM is something that will forever work no matter what happens. Because radio stations have backup generators and the antenna, I don't know all the technology, it works. So get you an AM, FM radio that's a hand radio, that's battery operated, or solar charged, or crank up, and put that in your go bag. Now, if you have 5 people in your house, how many go bags should you have? Yes. If you have 5 people in your house and 3 dogs, how many go bags should you have? 6 or 6.5. So if you do have pets, I have to pause and say, please also prepare for your pets. So in the back of your guides, there is an emergency plan for your pets. And that's important because when you go to the service center, or if you go to any type of emergency sheltering that the city coordinates, we do not turn away your pets, right? There's a designated area. So for the non-pet people in here, don't worry, the pets are not going to be in our space. The pets will be in their special space, and the city does not have the right to say no to you and the dog, the cat, the parrot, the hamster. I don't think you could bring a goldfish, but, core key pets, create that little go bag for them. Just like you put your snack, put a little treat in there, maybe a collapsible bowl, an old toy that they didn't like at first, but they got you got 10 more of them, sneak one in there. For children, you want them to have a go bag too. If they can walk and talk, if they can walk, or if they can be mobilized by a piece of equipment that can carry a bag, then create a go bag for them as well. And you can warm them up to this in a way of, hey, we're gonna put a bag together. For what? Just in case something happens, What if it floods? What would you do? And they might say, oh, I'll run in and I'll get my pajamas, I'll get my favorite stuffed animal. And then you'll say, but see, we don't have time to do all that. So that's why we have to prepare for it now. So there's so many ways you can help plan with your children. Go on YouTube. There are cool different cartoons that do it as well. And that will kind of get your wheels turning so you don't feel like the burden's on you. Red Cross has Pedro the Penguin, I think. And Pedro helps navigate children on how to prepare for emergencies as well. So you want to have the conversation with everyone. As you all said, there's 5 people, have 5 go bags. Now, if you do shelter in place, it's the same mindset of a go bag, except for we have to stay here for a couple of days. Now, everyone still rushes to the grocery store and they get bread, milk, and cheese. I don't know what they do with that, because if you don't have power, I'm not going to eat a cheese sandwich. So whatever it is, if you're a tuna eater, put a couple of cans of tuna in that container. If you're a tuna eater for your go bag, pay a couple of extra cents and get those little pouches that don't weigh as heavy, but it's enough to really give you a nice serving size and keep it moving. You could put a notebook in there with pen just to jot things down. You might still want to have copies of all the important documentation in there. You still want a whistle or two, because this is a shared space. I know we have limited space as well, so you don't need multiple containers. It might be that you just say this bottom shelf right here is our designated emergency shelf. You want a gallon per person of water if you can. The water is not just for drinking. The water is for washing your hands, cleaning and washing away the bad waste that our bodies produce. Sometimes the emergency after the emergency is sickness, and the sickness occurs because we don't have access to clean water. So think about that. If you ever are able to come into abundance of water bottles, gallons, stash it away a little bit and just know, hey, y'all, don't drink that. That's for if there's an emergency. And have it on your radar for when to check on that area again. If we think about the go bag, how many times should you update that go bag? Every year, once a month, every 6 months? So I would say every 6 months or every season, because you have to need to put a change of clothes in there as well, right? So right now it's cold outside, so I shouldn't have summer clothes in my go bag. So I need to check to see, do I have a pair of sweatpants and long sleeves in there, or are they're pedal pushers and a tank top, right? Think about what the weather is, so that could be your check-in point of, oh, the season's changed, let me go check it. Or it could be every 6 months as well. It could just be oh, let's check it in summertime, and again in December, or again in January. So think about that also with your stay-at-home kit. Some of us have things that are beyond expired, but I also recognize it's a habit of not being wasteful. So as you think of what's in your house, that's how you could build up your go bag, and that's how you could build up your shelter-in-place kit as well. I don't want you to go out and buy bags. Think about your grandchildren's, your nieces, your cousins, your own children, leftover bags that they kind of tossed aside from last school year. If it still functions, use that as one of the go bags. For the shelter-in-place, you might not have a big container. Do you have an old box from Amazon? Use that, or just use a shelf. So try not to go and say, I need to go to Amazon and buy everything now. Don't buy those kits that they sell on the internet from anywhere, because literally you can build it yourself for less than a quarter of what they're charging it. So all of this is just to put you in position to prepare yourself, to feel comfortable and confident of knowing what to do, and to be connected. At the very back, there is a red page, and it says get notified. How many of you have heard of Notify NYC? No? So Notify NYC is the city's official source of giving you information. That's how we give information to say that the bridge is down or closed, the trains are not running, buses are not running, highways are closed. This is how we gave out messaging around COVID to say, like, here are locations to get vaccinations, here are locations to get PPE. So this is an opt-in only application. So that means I can't force this information to you. You have to sign up by choice. Some of us still have flip phones. You still could sign up because you can get vocal phone calls, you can get text messages, or you can get emails. So think about your neighbors. Who can you help sign up? And then also you can scan the QR code and sign up for yourself as well. But that's the city's official source of information. How many of you have heard of Citizens app? That's not the city's official source of information. They feed some Notify NYC in there, and it also, to me, it gave me too much anxiety. But if you have Citizens app, then you absolutely need Notify NYC, because this is gonna just get directly to the point, and it's not based off of what other people are seeing. It's like straight from the city, here's what's going on, here's what's available. It can be that you get notifications for all 5 boroughs or based on zip code. So if it's like, oh, I don't want all these notifications, that's totally fine. If you download the application, it also allows you to look at the map. So at any point you can open it and you can kind of see like, oh, I didn't know that was happening in Queens. So yes, you don't have to get citywide information, but you can. And you can also get specific to your neighborhood. So I want to pause and ask you what questions you may have or curiosities. Any weapon should not go in your go bag. That's in anything that's too heavy, because you want to think about grabbing and going. Where should you put your go bag? You see how tall I am, so height-wise, where should I put my go bag? I'm not that short. So something you should absolutely not put in your go bag is weapons and heavy things, and then you want to put your go bag somewhere reachable, waist level. Now, if I put my go bag up high, I'm gonna cause another emergency, because most people don't have just one thing on the shelf. There's something else that you forgot about. So then you pull it and then boom, and now you gotta deal with, I hit my head, am I okay? Wait, there's blood, because you're looking for your go bag. So your go bag should be waist level or on the ground. And same thing for your stay in place container. You wanna put it low, but not under your house. Because I had a debate with somebody on Staten Island, and she said she would put it under her porch. And I just finally said, okay, ma'am. That's how you can do. Any other questions? Yes, go back should have a flashlight. So that image was definitely inside of, I didn't mention it, but have that flashlight. It could be solar operated or battery operated, but have a flashlight. Something my grandma taught me, especially during the summertime, to always have a flashlight on me, because I take the train so much, and she's like, I just don't want you to ever be stuck on the ground in the dark, so always have a flashlight. So put the flashlight in your go bag and at your shelter-in-place container. Any other questions or curiosities? No? All right. So when in doubt, when an emergency happens, which number can you call for more information? 311. When the emergency happens and you have a medical emergency, which number do you call? 911. Who should you call if you have someone who is on life-sustaining equipment? Con Edison. And who else should you contact? The building manager. Give them a heads up and get it documented as well. If you have 4 people and a cat in your house, how many go bags should you have? Okay. How many times can you and should you change your go bag? Every season or 6 months? Okay. Which hurricane evacuation zone are we in right now? Okay, okay. And what does a hurricane evacuation zone mean? High risk. Hurricane season runs from June until November 30th. What's today's date? And what did we have Sunday and yesterday? We had bad rain. The mayor's like, we got a coastal storm. And I'm like, is that what the meteorologist said? We got a coastal storm then, right? So storms operate outside of our normal, what we know as our timelines. So this map will still kind of be used. Even if we get a bad snowstorm, the water will rise from the melting of the snow and from the surge of the surrounding waters. So just be aware. My desire is for you to share this information with others. We can do this presentation with children. We have a superhero called Ready Girl. And so she could come out and help the children as well understand how to prepare for emergencies. But this has been one of Travis's passion projects from the first time I met him 6 months ago, was to get us or me into this house of worship to get you all prepared. And this is just step one. Step two is that you actually do the work. Step three is that you share it with somebody else outside of your household. And some of us talk on the phone a lot once we get home. We could be on the phone for a long time. So talk about something a little bit important. Talk about Ready New York. Talk about, hey, you know what a go bag is? What should I do with it? My mom, I've told her about a go bag for 5 years, and she still doesn't have a go bag. And she's like, so what should I do for the to-go bag? I said, it's a go bag. To-go bag, okay. Call it what you want, but I don't want to work right now, so I'll help you when I get down there in a couple of days. But think about folks who might need a little bit of help and help them. One of the number one causes of death for weather-related emergencies is heat, extreme heat during the summer. And so now we're out of the extreme heat. Now we're in extreme cold. We have vulnerable populations. Our older adults are a vulnerable population. Folks who might have diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, young children, their bodies are not able to regulate the different temperatures. So if you have people on your floor or your next door neighbor who you know I should check on them, please be kind and check on them. If you know you're cold and your heat's always working, just call them, text them, knock on their door. Hey, just wanted to say, hey, your heat doing good because it's a cold blue outside. It's really cold. You good? And if they say no, if you're comfortable with it, let them be in one of your living room or something for a couple of hours to warm up. But we are the ones that are going to keep each other alive when emergencies happen. The city of New York is not omnipotent. We cannot be here, there, and everywhere at one time. And so it's really going to take us and each of us uniting and being a community for us to bounce back, just like that blow-up doll. We can bounce back if we take care of each other. So I'll stop there. I think I'm at my time anyway, right? Okay, that's a yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. My information's on the screen. Take a picture if you want to bring me to your job or somebody else from my agency to your job. This is the information to give out. We hope to be able to do some more work with this church as well in terms of how you all can provide services after emergencies happen. How can you keep it going? What does your security look like here? Where is your meetup location when the fire happens? Want to get your wheels going, not to scare you, but to prepare you so you can keep all the people that you love and serve safe. So please document my contact information. Be in touch. I say that all the time, and then I don't hear back from many people. If you have a job and you're like, this will be helpful for my coworkers, bring us. If you work with young people, bring us. Like, we can work with any population. If it's someone from a different language, bring us. We can bring an interpreter as well. So please put this contact information down. Stay in touch. The community prep is going to be the general information. I would encourage you to put that email in as well. So if I happen to be out of town, my team members are getting the email as well. So thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Let's give another round of applause for Mariah. Coming all the way from the Bronx. But yes, I'm glad you came and was able to receive some information and some resources on what you could do to protect yourself, your church, and just the people around you. Some of you know me, but I'll say my name again. I'm Travis Carter. I am the Staten Island rep for Jamani Williams. This is our first event I actually had hosted here at Staten Island CA Church. And so, I'm glad you all came here. And before you leave, please, go downstairs. If you feel like you need some blood pressure screening, COVID test, or if you need some masks or just some resources, there's some stuff downstairs provided by VIM, the healthcare company, and Mount Sinai. Thank you, everybody.